The argument from my colleagues, Republican colleagues, well, they can get guns anytime. That's illegal.
Yeah.
If they got a gun, it's illegal, right? So if they broke the law, let's make sure. That's why we create laws, so that people have to follow them. Don't just assume that, well, they're going to get it anyway, so we may as well let them have it. Well, then let's just legalize drugs. They're going to get it anyway, so why don't we just don't legalize it? Let's legalize prostitution. It's the oldest business in the world. People are going to do it anyway. Why don't we just legalize it? Only going to stop those who have criminal intentions with the guns. It will only stop those who are mentally unstable to have access to guns. It will only do what it's supposed to do for those that we don't want to have access to guns. What the state did was they gave Texas A&M $198 million. Not 96, they gave them $198 million. They gave them $102 million more than they were even supposed to get.
Yeah.
And they gave Fairview $3 million. Wait, you gave them 1,000% more than they were supposed to get.
Mm-hmm.
And you gave Fairview 7% of what they were supposed to get. When I owned my restaurant, I used to hire a lot of people who had criminal records, because I believe everybody deserves a second chance. But they hadn't been to jail or been out of jail for 15 years. And yet you can go look on their record and you see that they have a record. And a lot of times people won't hire people like that.
Yeah.
They won't hire if you have a criminal history. Why? This person works hard. They've obviously, been out of trouble and hadn't been in trouble in more than 15 years, 20 sometimes, because they may have done the crime 20 years ago, did 5 years in prison and been out for 15. So I truly believe that everyone should get the opportunity of redemption. I truly believe that a lot of times you have a lot of people who have made mistakes when they were young, and oftentimes that mistake follows them the rest of their life. A veteran just simply have a very bad day and say, I'm going to kill myself. He told his family, I'm going to kill myself. The family called the police. The police came running. And when the police got there, he was locked in the bathroom. They're beating on the door. Come out, come out, come out. And he kept the door locked. They eventually kicked the door in. He had a knife in his hand. They tased him, made him drop the knife, tried to make him drop the knife, but they tased him. And anytime you tase somebody, your muscles clench up. So he's not going to drop the knife. But long story short, they end up shooting and killing him. Every time I come to the table, I come with a plan. But a plan that is holistically for everyone, not just these people or just this group of people. I look at it from a collectiveness of, when I'm looking at creating jobs, I make sure my colleagues understand.
Yeah.
If crime is a problem in this city, what better way to stop crime? Not just with more police officers, but if you create job opportunities for people are less likely to be involved in criminal activity when they have a job. When it floods, water flows everywhere, right? It's just not subject to one area, but that water will roll and it affect all of us. And so if we have an area of town that is more prone to flood, then let's make sure that we're taking care of, because if we don't fix that, it's going to find its way to your doorstep next. Yeah. You don't want that. So let's try to fix the problems where the problems are. And that starts with a plan.
So to everyone, let's get started with this exclusive interview. Hey everyone, I'm AJ, and this is a Faith Media Magazine exclusive interview with Texas State Representative Jarvis Johnson. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you for having me.
How are you doing now in 2025?
Everything is well. I mean, as well as can be expected here in Texas and in the United States when it comes to politics. I mean, right now it's a wait and see. It's a lot of unclarity about the future. But for me personally, everything is well. Continue to work in the community. Continue to support the community in different aspects and different things that we can do. But in terms of politics in this country, we're a little nervous.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. And the part that we call you the $2.1 billion guy is something that the state is proud of, that you got this funding secured for us. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think when you look at effectiveness, especially during times of um, very partisan politics, I'm obviously very proud of the fact that I could bring, that kind of money back to the district, because
Yeah,
that's truly what an elected official's job
yeah,
is to bring back resources, is to bring back opportunities, to create opportunities for your community. And so when you look at the $2.1 billion, it encompasses everything from education to infrastructure to making sure that our streets are proper, make sure we have proper drainage so our communities don't get flooded.
yeah,
It's business development, it's education, providing money to our colleges and universities, and making sure
yeah,
that our schools are funded. So I'm very proud of that fact, and
yeah,
I think
yeah,
it shows my ability to work across the aisle, as most people like to say. I want to work across the aisle,
yeah,
but it also just demonstrates my knowledge and effectiveness in getting things done in
yep,
these
yep,
very partisan times that
yeah.
we actually are living right now.
Yes, yes, I get it. I understand that. The part that you've been helping the state, doing your job for a very long time. There's a part that you helping criminal justice, veteran support, gun control. Helping colleges getting the fundings properly, making sure that the uh, floods doesn't affect the state. I just want to roll back to the time that this kind of decision making was just a dream for you. Like, I do something for the state. I take this decision. Can you take back to the period where you thought, like, I want to lead in politics. I want to be someone who will make the state better. What were those days like?
I don't know if there was ever a time that it was that moment when I said, "Aha, I want to be in politics."
Okay.
I'm always very nervous and scared of people who want to be in politics. Like
Okay.
I hear young people say, they're still in high school or they're little teenagers, and they
Yeah.
say, "I want to be a politician when I grow up." I'm like, "Nah, that's the wrong thing to say." Because no, if you want to be a politician, that means you're you're skipping steps. Because I
Yeah.
think that in order to be an effective politician, in order to be an effective elected leader, that you must have already followed. You must have worked
Yeah.
in the community. You must have worked in the streets and in these places that you're trying to help. Because I think the most important element for any elected official to be effective is to have empathy, which
Yeah.
means you have to have a true understanding and a feeling for what the people's needs are. And for me, I before I became an elected official, I used to run an after-school program in my community, in which we set up after-school academic curriculums for young people, and we also gave them a safe haven from some of the bad streets that they lived on. But I realized that I couldn't help the children until I helped the parents,
Mm.
and so you had to work to help the parents to help the children. But then I started realizing I couldn't help the parents until I helped the neighborhood, because oftentimes it's the neighborhood that would swallow up the parents and
God.
then send them on the wrong track. So I worked hard in the community, but I would often realize that if you don't help these communities, then you can't help the people. And so from there, I realized the importance of being in a elected position, but having a plan,
God.
having a vision for where you want to go and what you want to see out of your community. It's not
God.
just simply, I just want to run for office because I think I'm a leader,
Yeah.
um, or I want to be a leader. I don't think that is why we should elect anybody. I think we should elect people based on experience, based on knowledge, and based on a vision and a plan.
Yeah.
And so, kind of for me, that's what happened with me. When I was young, I was 21
Yeah.
years old. I was running this after school program. Um, and I just kind of got thrust into
God.
politics because the city tried to close my youth center down. One, and
Oh,
because they
okay.
said we didn't have the proper occupancy permit.
God.
And where my youth center was, it was in a drug haven community. It was, a lot of bad elements. And I was like, this is the only positive thing in this entire area. And
Mm.
you're trying to close it down when right next door is crack houses and prostitutes and just dilapidated buildings. And so I went to the city to appeal, to say, look,
God.
this is who we are. This is what we're trying to do. And at that time, again, I was very young. I was 20 something years old. It's almost like everybody patted me on the head. I was like, "Oh, you're doing such a great job." Next, and so they didn't
Oh,
fix the problem, and that really
right.
thrust me into wanting to be involved in politics because I don't believe that anybody's voice should be stifled or
Yeah.
kind of looked over. And I think that's kind of what they did to me as a young black man, working with these children in this community. I just think they kind of placated and kind of patronized me and patted me on my head and sent me on my way. And so at
Got
that point, I said, I want to give a voice to the voiceless, and so that's why I decided to get involved in politics.
Got it, got it. You talked about empathy, and that's a major role that is playing major role in your life, I guess. Empathy comes with something going around you, and you have that with you as a politician, which is a very good part of you. Tell me about how that occurred. Like when you're talking about empathy, how is it helping you now also in 2025 around people, 10 years, 2016 to 2025? How has that been a key changer for you?
I think when you're looking at trying to get bills passed or you're trying to um, work to get money for different projects, you have to speak from a position of understanding and full on knowledge.
Yeah.
And oftentimes when I'm passing bills for the sickle cell community, people who are afflicted with sickle cell, to many of my colleagues, a lot of people don't even know what sickle cell is. They
Yeah.
don't know the perils and the pain that comes along with being afflicted with sickle cell. Sickle cell is not a behavioral disease; it's a hereditary disease. But oftentimes, people who are afflicted with sickle cell are oftentimes embarrassed, and
Right.
um, I think they're demonized and they're
Mm.
considered drug seekers because there is no cure for sickle cell. The only thing that they can do is take pain meds to manage the pain that they're going through. And so hearing the story, I don't have sickle cell. There's nobody
Mhm.
in my family that has sickle cell, but I heard the stories and I went to the hospitals and I had an opportunity. There are people who worked in my office that were afflicted with sickle cell. And so when you hear those stories and you see the pain, I think it gives you a better understanding and a knowledge and then a power that you can tell the story because
Got
you're simply trying to tell the story in order to get bills passed or in order um, to advocate for funding for projects. But you're appealing to people's emotion. Not only,
Right.
it's not just emotional, but you want to appeal to their mind and then you want to appeal to their emotion. So I think empathy really, really, really helps because that's the only way you can really make um, good decisions for the entire community. When you
Got
have people who are out of touch with the community, which means they don't understand that flooding happens
Hmm.
and we should be doing something to help with infrastructure. But if you live in a upper echelon community that never floods, it's on the hill,
Yeah.
they don't
Yeah.
even understand what flooding is. When you
Yeah.
look at, people who have drivers instead of having to take the bus. And so when you don't want to invest money into mass transit because who needs that, right?
Yeah.
Everybody should have a car or
Hmm.
when you think that everybody should have certain things, then that's your problem. You don't have empathy because everybody does not. Everybody is
Yeah.
not the same. Everybody doesn't have the same opportunities and resources, and so we as a government is our responsibility and our job to make sure that we're providing resources and quality of life for everyone, not
Got
just
it.
some. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of times people don't know how certain people in our community live, and therefore they don't fight to make sure that we're, changing conditions of how people live. So again, empathy is so
Yeah.
very important because without it, I don't think you can legislate properly. Because I think you're legislating from a vacuum and
Got it.
you're helping everybody.
Talking about Texas people now, people in Texas, the Texans, we call them. Uh, what the part of your major funding securing was about 2.1 billion, but major part was 1.95 billion on Hurricane Harvey, and the second was for the ports, which concludes 250 million. Tell me about the part of securing the state from such floods. How hard was it to bring and securing that 1.595 billion dollar funding for the state and making these changes for the ports and infrastructure?
Yeah, well, in particular, that It wasn't, while it is the state, I advocate on behalf of my district. And my district, when I was a city council member, was District B. My state office was District 139. And so I advocated very strongly for those communities in particular. And again, I try to appeal to my colleagues from a position of understanding, knowledge, and again, empathy. And so when I'm advocating, I often advocate, which gives me the advantage over many of my colleagues, because I always walk in with a plan. Everybody in politics continues to say, I want to fight to be your leader. I want to fight to change the conditions. I want to fight to make sure that we take on the Republicans and we want to beat them. And, fighting is one thing. And I believe you have to fight because you have to push back a lot of times when people are trying to stop progress for your community or for your people. So I think it's important that you have a fight, but what has always been successful for me is to have a plan, because I never fight just to fight. I fight to win. But in order for me to win, I must know what I'm trying to win. And oftentimes my colleagues just walk into the ideology of running and being an office holder because they want to fight. And so how I think I'm successful is because every time I come to the table, I come with a plan, but a plan that is holistically for everyone, not just these people or just this group of people. I look at it from a collectiveness of, when I'm looking at creating jobs, I make sure my colleagues understand. If crime is a problem in this city, what better way to stop crime? Not just with more police officers, but if you create job opportunities for people are less likely to be involved in criminal activity when they have a job that pays benefits, that pays salary, that keeps their home, and they're able to purchase, things for their families and so forth and so on. So for me, it's always been about having a plan, knowing how to execute that plan, and making sure that I can appeal to my colleagues to make sure that the plan that we're having is collectively useful to all. Because again, we want to stop crime over the entire city. We want to make sure that flooding, when it floods, water flows everywhere, right? It's just not going to be subject to one area, but that water will roll and it affect all of us. And so if we have an area of town that is more prone to flood, then let's make sure that we're taking care of it, because if we don't fix that, it's going to find its way to your doorstep next. And you don't want that. So let's try to fix the problems where the problems are. And that starts with a plan.
Yeah. And you talk more on, like, until and unless you face that water in front of your house, you'll never know how it feels like. And that's really a big bold statement from you. Like, you need to know what is going on. If you don't know, then you can just be, who needs this kind of money for the state, and who needs this? So it's like your job is to transferring the message and the impact it's going to have. That's been great. And after reforming the state from the floods, we'll jump onto the part of reforming the criminals. There's a criminal justice reformation. You have very strong hold on doing the part, like providing education, providing vocational training, providing them something. They need to have that job that pays them. They are mentally stable when it comes to money. Where did the spark come from? How you got to this mindset of this needs to be done?
I look at things again from a broader viewpoint. There are people who have done crimes and they've done time, and I think it's important for them to be productive members of society. That you hear that from everybody. We want people to be productive members of society. And so I've worked very hard to create criminal justice reform so that if in fact a person does a crime, that I truly believe that they must go to jail and do the time that has been allocated to them. It's a deterrent. That is what the system was supposed to be set up to be, a deterrent. You go to jail as a punishment for a crime that you have, and everybody else sees with that you commit this crime, you're going to prison. Now, but once you have committed this crime, you've done your time. Now, here is where rehabilitation is supposed to come in. because more times than not, the people that are committing these crimes, when you look at the statistics, are people from broken families, people who did not have access to education, or people who did not have an opportunity to being in the job market. So you have to make sure that you provide at least an opportunity. I don't believe in giving anybody anything. I truly believe that everybody should earn everything that they get. But again, if this person, why are we putting a scarlet letter on this person that they have to carry the rest of their life, but yet you want them to be a productive member of society? They did the crime, they did the time. And so now it's, don't continue to hold them back and saying, oh, look, he has a criminal record. Well, there's so many people that I know that haven't, they did crime. When I owned my restaurant, I used to hire a lot of people who had criminal records because I believe everybody deserves a second chance. But they hadn't been to jail or been out of jail for 15 years. And yet you can go look on their record and you see that they have a record. And a lot of times people won't hire people like that. They won't hire if you have a criminal history. Why? This person works hard. They've obviously, been out of trouble and haven't been in trouble in more than 15 years, 20 sometimes, because they may have done the crime 20 years ago, did 5 years in prison and been out for 15. So I truly believe that everyone should get the opportunity of redemption. I truly believe that a lot of times you have a lot of people who have made mistakes when they were young, and oftentimes that mistake follows them the rest of their life. And that's such an unfortunate thing because the Bible says, when I was a child, I spoke as a child, I acted as a child, but when I became an adult, I put away childish things. Well, we're constantly holding their childish act against them. If you can remember the time that you did something stupid as a child, your mom caught you, or your father caught you, or even your teacher caught you. Can you imagine today as a grown man, that childish act that you did would follow you and harm you and keep you from getting a job, keep you from getting an apartment or a house, keep you from, being able just to simply have a productive life. I believe that everyone deserves second opportunities to redeem themselves and to be productive members of society without being labeled or provided this scarlet letter or to be, demonized to where they can't even join society properly.
And I guess this is something that should be noted.
That's where empathy comes in, because there's the only difference between, many of us and criminals is that the criminals got caught. But we all have been in situations where, something possibly we probably did. We just didn't get caught. How many times, oops, I didn't scan this at the grocery store, or I forgot to, or, I was speeding, and got into an accident, so it's truly, into everyone. And I think that's where empathy comes in. I myself have been arrested. As a young man, I owned a business, and this was prior to having a gun license, but I carried a weapon because at my business, I had large amounts of cash and I closed at night. And so but I got pulled over for, the police officer said I had run the stop sign, which I didn't, but anyway. But the case is that they found the gun in my car, and so I was arrested. Today, that is still on my record. That is still on my record. I was 19 years old. 19 I was. You can still, if you go to Google my name or Google my criminal history, you'll find that I had an arrest record for carrying a weapon. Now, again, if you just look at my record, it just says, oh, he's a criminal. He has a criminal record. It doesn't say he owned a business at 19 years old. His business, that I had to have at that time, carry large amounts of cash out of my business at the time. So that's why I say empathy is something else. But I also believe that many of us are not far or fall from having the unfortunate situation that many of these people have. So I think everybody has an opportunity to redeem themselves if given the opportunity.
And talking about the gun incident, talking about the gun control now, focusing our part on gun control, you have firm stand on the part that gun control laws should be more strict. After that Uvalde incident, the tragedy that killed 19 children and 2 teachers in the school, and that was to a teenager, and you explained that situation currently, that you were also in your 19 something, but you're doing the business. This is something which is a crazy act, that a teenager just went to the school and shot his fellow mates and teachers, and 17 were injured. After that, you said like people prefer to protect guns and not people.
Mm-hmm.
So you what's your stance when it comes to gun control and the laws that are still going on?
Our laws are far too lax and far too loose. When there is a problem in this country, we realize what the impetus of the problem is. We realize where the problem starts. If there is a drug problem, we don't simply blame the people for the drug problem. We try to stop the drugs from coming in here. We realize that guns are a problem. It is the number one killer of young people today, guns.
Yeah.
And yet we have to stop the flow of guns, or at least to have access to guns that we have given to everyone. People who have mental illness problems, people who have criminal histories, we have allowed guns and guns and guns and guns and guns. The United States per capita has more guns than every other country in this world. And yet you still see that. And obviously we have the most deaths too at the hands of guns in this world. And we're supposed to be this wonderful, developed country, and yet we act like barbarians. And so, I fight hard to make sure that people understand we're not supposed to be fighting to protect a gun. We're supposed to be fighting to protect children. And the thing about it is, again, I will go back to empathy. When you have politicians that want to protect these guns and say everyone should have guns because it is a good guy with a gun will stop a bad guy with a gun any day. And I tell them all the time, that's not going to happen. And I dare you to say that right now, because when we were at the Capitol, and I always say, if somebody walked in this room, in this Capitol building right now and just started shooting, what's the first thing you're going to do? And you got these old cowboys that will tell you, I'm going to shoot. No, you're not. First thing you're going to do is duck. That's the first thing you're going to do. You just hear a loud gun. You're going to be looking around. You're going to see somebody is shooting. You're going to duck just like everybody else. Police officers, that's what they're there for. They're there to protect us. I don't want some novice person who just simply can go get a gun without any training, a killing machine, and literally can carry it around. And that's why you see there's too much access to guns and too much death that goes along with it. And the problem, I think, with a lot of politicians is, had it been their child, had it been one of their children that got killed, I guarantee you laws would have changed immediately. Had the governor had a child, had the lieutenant governor had a child, had any of those Republicans had a child that was shot in that school, you would see a difference. And I will never pray to my God or any God, that he would bring wrath down on these people and they would hurt their children. But I do want them to feel the pain that those parents had to feel, that they could not identify their own children because they were blown to pieces by some teenage boy who was having a mental breakdown, and he used an AR-15 that should never be used for home protection or hunting. Mm-hmm. But can you imagine having to identify your child and you couldn't? And the only way you can identify that child is by the clothing you knew that they put on that morning. That is the only way, because their face was gone. Whole parts of their body gone. And yet you have Republicans and politicians that we have to protect. Guns don't kill people. People kill people. What? People kill people with a gun. It's so stupid that you say that. But again, if they have to go through this, things will change. Yeah. Unfortunately, and fortunately, they don't have to go through this, and yet things don't change. And so I fight hard to make sure that we can try to change the gun laws. I don't believe in stopping people from owning guns. I myself personally own guns. I have guns for home protection. I don't need 15 guns. I certainly don't need an AR-15. I certainly don't need an AK-47. I certainly don't need an M16 as home defense. That's killing a fly with a sledgehammer. That's just, come on. You don't need all of that. But it has led to so much death and so much heartbreak and again, so much destruction in this country. But we'll continue to fight. to stop the influx of guns that have come in and that are killing our children and killing our families. And so we have to do a better job.
Good. You also questioned Rep. Carrie Isaac, I guess, with his bill on gun controls, on gun liability insurance legislation. So, what were the key concerns on that bill, particularly?
They were legislating nothing. We legislate things when things happen, and the rep at that time was legislating nothing. We're legislating to try to tell cities what they can and cannot do, and that's not what we do as a state. And I asked her a simple question: where was this a problem? And she pointed out, it is a problem in California. And I said, well, we're not in California. We're here in Texas. So why are you worried about legislating for California when you should be worried about legislating for here?
Yeah.
And again, like most Republicans, like most of my colleagues at the time, they cannot articulate their bills because they don't know what their bills do. Their bills are generally handed to them, and they are simply machines that go up there and read it. And because they have the majority of the votes, they'll get their bills passed, but they really don't know what their bills do. And so Rep. Isaac literally was legislating nothing. She was literally making up this concept of a bill to force cities to not be able to legislate on behalf of themselves. So if a city decided we want to have gun control in our city, this is my city, I'm elected, the mayor, the county judge, the county commissioners, the city council members, they're elected by their voters. They have the right and the option of making decisions on what's in the best interest of their community. And yet somebody like Isaac will come along and say, no, you can't do that. No, you can't legislate on behalf of your constituents. You cannot legislate guns in your city.
Okay. And yeah, you're right. When it comes to gun protection, what are the things that you see now? You see like all the people trying to have a gun just for the safety, but they are also passing that level of getting a bigger one, or you just said that killing a fly with a sledge. So tell me the part where what are the things that you want to be really stopped with the gun control, really take under control? What are some 4-5 things that you want to be taken under control when it comes to guns?
Number one, we have to raise the age to make sure that we don't put guns in the hands of young people. A teenager that oftentimes are quick to anger or oftentimes don't use the best judgment. So we have to raise the age. And obviously, if we raise the age to have access to these guns, then you would have stopped what happened in Uvalde. There have been multiple young people that have committed crimes that have gone to school and shot up their own schools. So you can stop that, right? So we have to raise the age. The argument from my colleagues, Republican colleagues, well, they can get guns anytime. That's illegal. Yeah. If they got a gun, it's illegal, right? So if they broke the law, let's make sure. That's why we create laws, so that people have to follow them. Don't just assume that, well, they're going to get it anyway, so we may as well let them have it. Well, then let's just legalize drugs. They're going to get it anyway, so why don't we just don't legalize it? Let's legalize prostitution. It's the oldest business in the world. People are going to do it anyway. Why don't we just legalize it? So the argument fails when people say, we don't want to raise the age because people can get their parents' guns. Well, we need to hold parents accountable too. We need to make sure that, you have universal background checks, that we can, the same way you're looking through me, around me, over me, and under me, looking at my criminal record, which would stop me from getting a job, stop me from getting an apartment, stop me from, being able to live a comfortable, successful life. We should have the same kind of universal background checks for people to purchase guns. We have to do a better job of doing background checks. We have to have the red flag laws. The red flag laws are for people who may be suicidal or people who have mental illness problems. We don't want them having access to guns. And again, these things are simple. This is not earth-shattering. It's not going to change.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it's simple. And so it's not going to even affect a large swath of gun owners. It's only going to stop those who have criminal intentions with the guns. It
Yeah.
will only stop those who are mentally unstable to have access to guns. It will only do what it's supposed to do for those that we don't want to have access to
Got,
guns. And yet, the colleagues and my Republicans want to protect guns more than they want to protect anything else. Guns are more important. And to those people, there are many of my colleagues that walk around on the Capitol floor with a gun on their hip. I mean, it's concealed. They have their jackets on, but they have a gun.
yeah.
And I ask them all the time, how does it feel to think about death every single minute of your life? And what are you talking about? I said, that gun is not a toy. It's a killing machine. Regardless of whether you're saying you're only using it to protect yourself, but every day you wake up with the fear that somebody's going to come get you. That's a miserable life. That's a miserable, miserable life. I don't wake up every day thinking doom and gloom. I know that there is a God, and I know that my God will protect me. I know that there is my maker will look after me. I get that. But every single day, you put that gun on, and it's not your job. You're not a cop. But every single day, you're thinking about death. And I just simply put it in their face like that and make them think. Like, you think about death every day. That's miserable. If every single day I thought about, is today the day I'm going to die? Is today the day I'm going to shoot somebody? Is today the day that I'm going to have to pull? Like, that's not a good life. You're going to get old before your time. You're going to get hypertension when you don't need it because you're constantly worried about guns or killing or protecting yourself. I live in a big city. I grew up in some people will say in a crime-riddled community. But I never feared for my life. I never feared that somebody was going to, every single day. Of course I lock my car. Of course I lock my door. But I don't, every day I'm not going to sleep with my gun underneath my pillow because I'm thinking somebody's going to come get me in the middle of the night.
Good. Yeah. And the part that there's been recent news, a boy killed his parents in their own house for some money. That was the case. I guess it was related to Trump, but it was the case that he killed his parents. Then there is another case where he killed his mother first, and then he did. But because this is something where I'm heading with this is the education. The part of having a good education will not let this happen. This comes with the mental health part, I guess, the mindset of the kids that's going up now with having guns. With that, we are now focusing on the part of education funding that you helped secure. In your time, it was around 142 million, 59 million for dorms, 23 million for science building renovation, 60 million for academic support center. All this money got divided into the important sectors. How do you believe that having good education system, having good infrastructure for education system, and this department filled with proper equipments or setup is going to help the people in Texas?
I think when you're referring to money that I advocated for and worked hard to get for Texas Southern University, which is a university that I went to personally. I'm wearing that right now.
Okay.
I think there should be equity in funding. I think when we're in this competing global economy that we have, I think it's important that we give every university the same opportunity to educate its population. But what I personally have seen, as well as many others, is that there has been a disparity in funding. So you'll have universities like the University of Texas, where they're receiving $2 billion annually, or Texas A&M, or University of Houston, Texas Tech, any of these big universities.
Yeah,
they're receiving they're receiving the money that they're asking for. And yet, historically and consistently, Texas Southern and Prairie View are universities that will only get 10% of what they're asking for. In Texas, there are only 2 land grant colleges in Texas. 2 land grant colleges: Texas A&M, Prairie View A&M. Now, the federal government provides funding to these land grant colleges. The feds look at the ask of Texas A&M, and they'll look and say, okay, based on everything that you have here, we're going to give you $96 million, right? Texas A&M has about, 60,000 students? So they're a big university. And Prairie View has about 7,000 students, but it's a land grant college. And so the federal government comes in and looks and says, okay, based on everything that we see that you have, you deserve $23 million. Now, what is supposed to happen is that the state is supposed to match the money that the federal government put up. So if the Fed said that Texas A&M deserves $96 million, then Texas needs to match that, and that's going to be $96 million. Prairie View, they gave them $23 million, then that means the state should give $23 million. What the state did was they gave Texas A&M $198 million. Not 96, they gave them $198 million. They gave them $102 million more than they were even supposed to get.
Yeah.
And they gave Prairie View $3 million. I'm like, wait, you gave them 1,000% more than they were supposed to get.
Yeah.
And you gave Prairie View 7% of what they were supposed to get. How? I don't understand that. And so the funding wasn't fair, and the funding for all these universities have never been fair. And so I've always fought to make sure that we provide every student that wants to go to any of these institutions, that they're given fair and equitable funding so that our universities can do the research, so that our universities can educate. But there are some that will believe that HBCU is a historically Black college and university. There are some that believe that university no longer is necessary. I've had my colleagues tell me, well, why Texas Southern, you can go to school anywhere you want. So why? And I said, that's right. I go to school anywhere I want. But I chose to go to Texas Southern because my father went to Texas Southern. My mother went to Texas Southern. My grandparents, my grandfather, and my aunts. So it's a legacy for me. It's a choice. Don't insult me and then try to diminish the accomplishments of my university simply because you think it's called a historically Black college and university. Yeah, it says historically Black college. Yeah. It doesn't say 100% Black because, Texas Southern may be 75% Black, but there are Asian, Mexican, white, Indian. There are all types of nationalities that go to Texas Southern University. The same with U of H. So it's a melting pot of everybody. So I fought hard to get, and that year we were able to get Texas Southern its largest appropriation that it's ever gotten in the history of the university, simply because of the work and helping people understand the importance of educating fairly and equitably to everybody.
Got it. And this is something which was very necessary because it's just not all Black that you mentioned. Like it's not 100% Black. It's historically Black, and that proves a different point here. Like there's a lot of people from different races coming in, and it's growing up in its own way. And there is a need of university because people from just not from a Black background, but from different, like from Asian, from some Indians and some other people are coming in, Mexicans. So they have that one source, which will be Texas Southern University. So and that needs to be built strong in order to have those family, believe that they are going to a proper college, they have proper setup, the proper environment, so their kids are going up and will be something when they go to the university. And I guess this is something that you solved in a proper way. And talking about the parents, we're talking about the veterans now. You have a special connection with them. You help them in their old age. You helped 12.6 million for mental health crisis team. You redirected federal funds to create police crisis response teams. So you believe that, and there is a problem of healthcare and mental health issue. These are two problems they're dealing with. So what led you to have this kind of mindset that we need this, we need to allocate team to this, and we need to take care of this?
Every day you see politicians and the president. Every time you go to the airport and somebody's in uniform, everybody always walks by and say, "Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service." We we do the Pledge of Allegiance, and we do it to honor the veterans that have fought to keep our country safe. And yet, once they are out of the military, you no longer care about them. You've thrown them aside. You no longer care that they fought in a deadly war. You no longer care that they are having PTSD and they are unable to just keep it together for themselves and their families. You brag and you pat them on the back while they're wearing the uniform, but when they take the uniform off, you no longer care about them. And I think that's wrong. For those people who laid the foundation for our safety of this country, then I think we should take care of those people for as long as necessary. And oftentimes we see that these people have mental illness that goes unchecked. You'll find that these people still, through this mental illness, have led to homelessness, have led to some criminal activity, and yet we don't do anything about it. We don't do enough to protect those individuals that did everything to protect us. And so I fought to make sure that we had money set aside and available for mental illness diversion programs, so that when I don't believe that if I'm having a mental breakdown, that's not a police problem. That's not a police problem. People are so quick to call the police for everything. If I'm, there have been cases in which I've seen a veteran just simply have a very bad day and say, I'm going to kill myself. He told his family, I'm going to kill myself. The family called the police. The police came running. And when the police got there, he was locked in the bathroom. They're beating on the door. Come out, come out, come out. And he kept the door locked. They eventually kicked the door in. He had a knife in his hand. They tased him, made him drop the knife, tried to make him drop the knife, but it tased him. And anytime you tase somebody, your muscles clench up. So he's not going to drop the knife. But long story short, they ended up shooting and killing him. And I'm going, wait, see, he was going to kill himself. But yet you guys, without having a therapist there, without having a counselor there, without trying to even talk this guy down, you shot him 9 times. 9 times you shot him. And so I believe that oftentimes, we have to have money set aside. That everything is not about going to jail. It could be diversion programs that we can help people get in facilities and get in places where they can get mental health counseling. The county jail in Harris County is the largest mental health hospital, but it's a jail. When you go in there, you'll see the number of people who are there simply because they have a mental incapacity. They're not criminals. They just literally had a breakdown. They may have walked down the street yelling and screaming, and they may have been, taking off their clothes, or they may have been, looking into people's cars, not breaking in, just looking. You don't put people in jail for that. You give them help. You don't just lock them up. And so I fought to make sure that we don't lose sight of those people that helped us and fought for us, for our protection, and fought for our liberty, and fought for our safety. And then now that they're back in, stateside, we don't care about them anymore. And I just think that's wrong. And I do everything that I can to put and shine it in the face of my Republican colleagues to let them know it's not right and it's not fair that you're not providing the resources to the people who fought to keep you safe.
Yeah. Thank you so much on talking about that, because I guess this part is really different when it comes to criminals or people holding guns. It's something that they are having mental breakdown, and that needs to be taken care of in a very different way for people who served the country for a very long time, and now they are in a place where they can't handle the trauma, but it is haunting them. And I guess that is leading to having this mental issues. It's good to have this kind of setup for those people, where they can be taken care of in a proper way. When it comes to all these fields, I just want to know which are the fields that are the next on your map, on your schedule, or on the vision that you have from 2025. Which are those fields for Texas that you're looking to, I have to make a move on these two?
I think right now you have to look for any community that I represent. I always stick to 4 major aspects of that, and that's infrastructure, housing, education, and business. I
Got
look
it.
at those four things. Those are four things that I focus on more than anything. I'm not discounting healthcare. I'm not discounting religion. I'm not discounting anything else that the community may need, but I'm looking at, again, four areas. If I want to focus on infrastructure, because in order to have a sustainable community, you must know that your community is not going to flood, it's accessible to mass transit, or it's accessible. You can move around your neighborhood. When you have proper infrastructure, that means you're bringing in housing, and when you bring in housing, businesses follow rooftops. Businesses want to go where they know they'll be able to sell their wares and sell their goods. And when you're looking at those businesses themselves are bringing jobs. And when you're bringing jobs, again, going back to what I said originally, well, it creates less likely of an individual being involved in criminal activity when they know they have a job and responsibilities. It also helps our young people get into the job market early, because now when you have those type of communities that have movie theaters and shopping malls and eateries, those are oftentimes those first jobs for many of our young people, and you give them a work ethic at a very early age. And then lastly, it's the education. Those businesses will fund the education system for our young people, for our children, and then moving on up. So I always stick to those four things. And when I say I stick to those, that's the plan that I always come with. And that's why I'm always successful, because I'm able to bring a plan to the table to be able to get the resources for my community. And so that's how I will continue to do, infrastructure, housing, business, and education. I think those are the most important aspects for any community to thrive and to be successful for its residents.
Got it. And here's the just imagine situation. If this happens, okay. So if there's a blank check given to you, okay, and it says like you can use put a number and use it, okay, which department or which field will you use it for?
I would use it for the Jarvis Johnson fund so that I can pay my own. I'm just joking. Yeah, again, I think education and healthcare. Education and healthcare are two of the most important things that I think that we could do to provide opportunities. And education is just not reading a book. Education is not just sitting in a classroom. Education is in vocational ed. It's training. It's teaching people how to go and get a job. It's teaching and creating opportunities for people. And of course, making sure that our healthcare is properly funded, so that people don't have to work just to simply, get their medicine. I mean, right now you have so many senior citizens that their entire Social Security check goes to their meds, and that's so unfortunate. And so we have to do a better job in this country of making healthcare more affordable. There are so many people that don't have access to healthcare, and they'll end up using the emergency rooms. They don't. So we have to do. Those are the two areas that I would certainly write a handsome ransom to, again, put all the money towards.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jarvis Johnson. So thank you for being on the podcast. Thank you for being on the Faith Media Magazine podcast. Thank you for giving your time. It's late night in Texas, I know that, and yeah, it's too late here. It was just the thing that I'd like to conclude in the last, that if you did something like this without being in the house, I'd like to see you in the house and doing more for the state, for the city, for the state, importantly, for the people, and specifically for the Black community also. Bring us some more money. That would be great. Making more impactful, because if this is something that you do on your own, and having that mindset of having empathy, giving the second chance for the people, giving that time for veterans to calm them down, and believing in them that hey, they are going through mental breakdown, you don't need to shoot them.
Right.
Just need to be with them and let them have their whole trauma recovered. You also believe in having that gun control laws more strict, because if you believe that if that was governor's son, he might change the law, he might make it more strict than it is now. And you don't wish that to happen, but they need to know the pain. The pain is the thing that you don't believe and see sitting in a room or a chair in an AC in an office. You have to see that pain on the streets,
Right.
and that is one thing that you believe. I guess, and also for the community, for the college that you're wearing now, Texas college, and Texas Southern University. And I guess some colleges like this needs that kind of environment, infrastructures, teachers, education systems. So we raise good kids, we raise people who will serve the state, make this whole thing a much better place. And your involvement has been really good, and I'd like to see you in the house, or doing more things with time. So is there anything that you'd like to pass on in the last note?
Yeah, I think more importantly, when you look at what's happening in this country in terms of elected officials, certainly I'd love to continue to serve my community. But I think what we're going to in politics today is that we've put more emphasis on volume versus vision. When I say volume, oftentimes the voters just want somebody who's going to be loud. If you vote for me, I'm gonna fight. I'm gonna fight. I'm gonna fight. I'm gonna fight. That's all they want. They just want, right now, especially Democrats, they just want somebody who's gonna rail against the Republicans and curse them out and make them, use the same energy on them. And I think that is the wrong message to send. We need leaders that have a vision, that have a plan. So I always put vision over volume. I always put action over antics. You always have elected officials. They show up everywhere. They shake everybody's hand, kiss all the babies, they're saying all the right things. But right now, I think our voting base just go for whatever people say. It's like they just want you to say what makes them feel good. This country elected Donald Trump as the president, and this is a man that had 34 felony convictions. This is a man that had no political experience. This is a man that was not, did not have a good background, and even in terms of business, he literally lived a made up life through media and through just lies that he made up about himself. We know he had 7 bankruptcies, and yet people still think that he's a good businessman. Yeah, you're a good businessman with 7 bankruptcies. But he was a celebrity. Mm-hmm. And I think that is what is wrong today with our communities and this country, that people who are running for office, they're running for office for it's a popularity contest. It's politics is the only business, is the only job where you don't have to have any experience at all. You don't even have to have a vision. You don't have to have a plan. You just simply must engage people enough for them to like you, to vote for you. And I think that's the most dangerous thing in the world. You're going to vote for somebody because you say, "Oh, I like that person." But you say, but that person doesn't have experience. They've never done this before. But they said they're gonna do a good job. Yeah. And I'll just say this, and I use this as an example all the time. If I go to the eye doctor, well, let's just use a heart transplant. If I'm going to and I got a bad heart, and the doctor, and I'm saying, he says, "Yep, you got to get a new heart transplant, and here's what I can do. I'm gonna do this, and that, and I have a great idea on how to do this, and I'm gonna fix you, and you're gonna be good as new." Oh, doc, that's great. Okay, have you ever done this surgery before? Can I talk to some people about how it's? Oh, I ain't never done this surgery before. Well, what do you mean? Oh, but I just have a good idea. I have a good idea that I'm gonna be able to do it. Like, so you've never done an open heart surgery before? Nope, but I have a good idea. See, that's what most politicians do. Only thing they ever have to tell you is they have a good idea. They don't have to prove to you that they know how to bring $2.1 billion back to their community. They don't have to prove to you that they already passed bills, substantive bills. They don't have to do all of that. And I think this is where we are in this country, is that we have to move away from popularity politics and start electing people who truly know what they're doing, how to get it done, and have a vision and a plan for the future. Long after I'm gone, I hope that the work that I have put in place continues to go on. But unfortunately, we get in these places where people get in office, and as soon as they're gone, everything else is gone. I still have things that are happening in my community from the time in which I was on city council in 2006 that are still happening today. And I'm proud of that. I want to be judged on that. I don't want to be judged on, if you vote for me, this is what I'm going to do for you. Because those are just empty promises. Judge me on the work that I have already done.
Yeah.
That creates an opportunity for us to have great leadership. But I'm not going to go to a doctor that don't know how to do open heart surgery only because he has a good idea. There is no other job in the world where you simply can have a good idea and get a job. That is probably one of the most important jobs that you can do. That's going to affect trillions upon trillions upon trillions of dollars, affect every aspect of our life, affect our, our earning power, affect our children's education, affect everything. And we give this power to these individuals that literally don't know what they're doing. They just simply have a good idea. Yeah. And then the community complains when they don't get what they want. That's why nobody likes politicians. All politicians are liars. All politicians are cheats. Well, you voted for them. You voted for them based on a lie. And now you're really trying to, now you're mad at them, but you put them in place. They didn't have experience. They had not a clue. But I tell people that, well, Jarvis, everybody has to get a start in it. I say, you're right. I got my start in politics. I worked in political offices for many years before I even decided to run for office. I worked in city council offices. I worked at the state house. I worked, in congressional offices. And so I had a better understanding of the process. So I think we got to do a better job of vetting our leaders, and then certainly electing leaders that have vision over volume.
And this is very strong point that you made. It's just like the game that you guys play, which is basketball. You play the people in the NBA who have good experience, who had done a number of shots, or have that kind of experience, who can do the job properly, and you check the stats. Check the stats, who has done this kind of things, then you place the guy properly. I guess that's what you're saying here. Like, check the stats first. What is done, what is not done. Don't go on the popularity. It's not a TikTok. It's not an Instagram reel, or it's not a TV show that you want them to be there because you like them. It's real life. And I guess this needs to be changed. The popularity thing, putting them on the pedestal, that needs to be changed, I guess. And thank you so much. I'm not going to take much of your time, but it's been great. I'd love to chat with you sometime. If there isn't some kind of event going on, I'd love to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you. And you have a great day.
Yeah, have a good night. I guess it's late, but right. Enjoy your night and take care.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, all the best.
Bye-bye.